Hello. My name is Janneke Honey, and I photographed a lot of people and plenty of bands. Bands, everything from Stanley O to The Killers, Jamie and Shooney, The Horrors, most Scottish acts, actually. I'm just going to tie up with what happened this morning. Johnny offered you guys to get prints more or less for free here. And that made me think, how many of you have you got your pictures in place? 1, 2, 3, just a few hands, right? And this is what I'm going to talk about and what I'm going to stress. You might be musicians and you want people to hear you, right? But people also need to see you. So when do you use pictures? Like all the time, right? You need pictures, but I'm not going to swear. You need pictures for your press. If press gets in touch, they're not going to send the photographer. You need to supply them with pictures. I tell you, I have 2 handfuls of people who paid me to do the pictures, except for the labels. It's also if you're like the Killers or the Horrors. So you need pictures for press, posters, flyers, hopefully billboards later on. You need pictures for your CD and vinyl covers too. You need pictures for adverts, and you also need pictures for digital media, of course, like social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And since there wasn't many hands coming up and asked if you had pictures, it kind of makes me think, what have you got online? What have you got for your Spotify and SoundCloud links and Bandcamp? So in Edinburgh, we got a weekly column for upcoming bands. And it's actually presented at Scotland on Sunday, which is the Scotsman. And I know the guys doing this column, and you can't believe the people they knocked back because they didn't have a picture. And obviously, they need a picture. Wow, that's quite, can you see that? For the column. And it's this kind of great opportunity to get your band out there. But if you don't have a picture, it would be difficult to actually feature you. So when it comes to the pictures, here's what we were talking about earlier on, which is super important. Don't go and get something down from Facebook. If you have a pen and paper, get this written down. Your pictures need to be high-res, which means 300 dots per inch. When it's 300 dots per inch, it's printable, and it's nice, and it's full of, as you can see here on your right-hand side, information. Everything else that goes online is 72 dots per inch. And quite often, some of the journalists I know have had pictures sent to them that they just taken off Facebook and forward it in an email. And I also want to stress that too. If you can email the picture, most often it won't be printable. As I said, 72 dpi is just online usage. Even if you upload a picture onto Facebook, they transfer it and make it online. So even if you upload a 300, they change that, so it's all messed up. So make sure with your pictures that they're large enough. And I know Michael talked about this earlier on. When you get your pictures done, it's always easier to resize them down than up because you lose loads of quality. So at least we want the image to 4,000 plus dots per inch. And as I said already, avoid Facebook pictures. You also have loads of links online. So if this is like going in through one ear and coming out the other, go and have a wee look at this because it really, really, really matters. It's like you want to make it easy for press when they finally get in touch with you. Send them an amazing high-res picture and they get it nicely printed for you. And also, like I said, you don't send it, you need to upload it somewhere, but we're going on to that. So the format of the pictures that you would send people is landscape, portrait, a square if you shoot for your vinyl art, and headshots, and I'll tell you about headshots later on. Media or press, most of them want landscape and portrait pictures because that's kind of the outlaying of the magazine. Meanwhile, if you book a photographer and you go on to do maybe art for your CD cover, you need to let the photographer or your pal know that that's what you're shooting for because it's kind of 2 different ways of shooting. And this talk that I'm doing now, it's mainly for you to make your, when you go to do a shoot, to make the shoot as mindful and easy and efficient as possible. So when you got your photographer, get your photographer to do headshots too. And I always have a really stupid joke about this, but I'm not going to say about the drummer now. However, if one of your members goes or leaves the band, you can always add another headshot, so you don't need to go and do this full shoot again. I photographed bands, so it's like 10-piece band, you know, with loads of people, and we always make sure we have the headshots. You can be more creative than this as well, of course, you know, it doesn't need to look like a school photo shoot, but it's good to get all these kind of things done, so you don't have to go back to the photographer, pay more money, or use more energy doing a shoot. You want to get as much done as possible. So how should the image look like? You want the band members visible. I know quite often you have these images where the forewoman or the foreman is all in shape and in focus, and then you got the rest of the band kind of blurry. It's not so nice. Let's make sure that everyone is just visible and in focus. I also think a natural background is great. Like, I love walls, believe it or not. I think all bands should be shot against walls. Seriously. Walls are cool, you know, because it actually gets you to focus on the band. You don't want Edinburgh Castle in the background if you're a Glasgow band, and you also don't want the Clyde in the background if you are from Glasgow. You want it to be an image who can travel across the world. Saying that, when I photographed Jamie and Shooney, we were down at the Granton Beach, but I think people are so preoccupied with his naked body and tattoos, so you don't think about Granton Beach so much. So make sure it's a natural background, because you want this image to be able to, you want to use it forever, basically, or not ever maybe, but 5 years or something. And as soon as you go for distinct locations, it gets outdated. Also avoid big logos, because if you don't get paid by Fila or Adidas, don't have that stuff in, because it's just not good. And also, that might be not so fashionable after a couple of years. Here's another one as well. People always talk about having black and white images done and color ones. I say, as a photographer, you just get everything done in color. And if your photographer can't do in color, that means that the photographer needs to rethink what he's doing again, because if the magazine wants the pictures in black and white, they just do that for you. You don't need to sit and do that. And especially one that I was about to say hate, is when people go a bit arty-farty, so the whole image is black and white, and you keep the kind of eyes sexy blue, like piercing blue. Don't do that either. Like, just keep it simple. Simple is good. You don't need to go crazy. Filters, like rubbish filters, is a pretty bad way of going too. So what you want to do before you go off to do the shoot is discuss within the band what you're after. The photographer or your friend is going to help you with this too, but you have to talk between you what you want to do. I mean, I went off to photograph a band where the singer wanted to be in a church. Meanwhile, I was shooting in this band in a church, and I said to them, it's going to look like you're religious. Are you aware of that? And that's okay with me. One of the other band members came up and said, could you make it not look like a church? You don't want that to happen. Make it easy for yourself and make it easy for the photographer. Also, pick clothes that represent you. Like, less is more. You don't want to be dressed up like clowns if you're not like a Tivoli kind of festival band or whatever. Just make it simple and what you're all about, because it really matters. You can also ask the photographer for some ideas and examples, because it's our job to help out with that. Sometimes I photograph people who don't have a clue, and that's super cool. You know, you just sit down, have an hour meeting, couple of coffees, and then you know where you're going. Think about the location, like I mentioned earlier on. Just pick a nice wall rather than something really elaborate. As a Scottish band, maybe as well, don't go and sit in a pub with a couple of like Guinness in front of you. It just looks like it has been done, and you don't want to do that either. So at simple location, simple clothes or whatever. If you're a heavy metal band, maybe you want to represent that and not wearing pink flares or something. Also, discuss your fears and concerns with the photographer. I've done quite a lot of shoots where the band members have been really, how should I put it, fearful and scared, and that sometimes comes across that you're being a bit arrogant and difficult, and you just want the shoot to be good and simple and fun. So if you're feeling nervous about the camera, tell the photographer it's all good, even if the photographer is your mate. So during the shoot, be professional, turn up in, that's everything, turn up in time, come to the right location, don't mess around. You can have a bit of a laugh before, but like during the shoot, you don't want to be laughing around too much, because it just looks horrific in pictures anyway. sometimes when people get stressed out, they put their hands in their pockets and they do all these weird things. As a photographer, I always help people. I say, take out the take out your hands out of your pockets, and then don't lean back too much. You know, we do this whole thing. Here's the pinhead picture. That happens. Look at Michael here and Olaf. That actually happens quite often. Maybe not the faces, but actually the body. You know, we lean back, we get a bit uncomfortable, we try to look cool, and actually what happens is that you just get a tiny wee head and a big body. So if the photographer, as I used to do, asks you to lean forward, I know it feels a bit cheesy, but lean forward and chins up, it just looks so much better. Also, if you get someone to shoot your gig, I actually asked, I guess it's light technician, to switch off the red and the green light, because if you have red and green light, there's no pictures. If you want to have that through the gig, you just get the photographer to shoot the 2 first tunes, and then you put on all the cool lights again, but it's just not going to happen. Also, ask the photographer to send you JPEGs. Sometimes people send TIFFs, and they're massive, and that doesn't really work. This is super important, how you supply your pictures. I would say if you have a website, make sure you have a press kit where you upload a couple of pictures, so maybe 3 images, and one of them don't need to be black and white, but like put everything on your website so people can download the pictures easily and access them in that way. You don't want to start to email pictures to people because it's just going to clog up their inbox. You can also host them on Dropbox, and you can send them via a WeTransfer link. And I always do that because the catch is that you can see when the other person downloaded your pictures. So if people are stressing out and they leave it for a few days, you know what kind of, not people they are, but what kind of mentality they have. Hightail is good too. And here's another one. Don't send them through email. I was talking to someone during the break, actually, and this is really important. It doesn't matter if you pay someone £500 or 30 quid or a couple of pints, right? It's like, get an agreement done, and that just means the email. You don't need to have a signed with blood contract. It's in this agreement, you just state how many images you get from the photographer, if they're retouched or not, when you get the images. You also need to know, and the photographer needs to know, what you're going to use the pictures for. So, for example, I would say, we're doing a shoot on this location, this time, this date. You will get 15 images or 20 images is plenty sometimes. You get 15 images from me. You get them within 48 hours or maybe a week. These images are only for press shots, perhaps, album art, sleeve, posters, but you need to have that stated too, because otherwise people get upset if you use them in the wrong place. I always state if it's a fee and what the fee is, because you don't want that to get confused either. And also make sure that the pictures don't have a watermark, because if you go off to do this shoot, you don't want to come back with images who've got like Janneke Honey photography across the image. However, when you use the images that your friend or the photographer done, you can always credit that person, because that's nice. I think that's it, actually. I'd rather just have questions, but I don't know if I have time for that. Yeah? No questions. God, you got such an opportunity to ask questions, but it's not a single question. Yeah. What did I miss?
Me, I just can't get enough of the microphone.
Good.
You mentioned retouching pictures.
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, retouching pictures is, I think most images nowadays, right, okay, I'm going to rephrase that actually, Michael. If you have a photographer who turns up with the iPhone taking pictures of you, that's not a photographer. That's like someone just taking pictures on an iPhone. Retouching pictures is that you put them through a software program like Photoshop. I do everything on Photoshop. And it's a misdemeanor that you tidy up the picture. Also, it could be a case of that you do shoot and you have a couple of high rises in the background and you want to get them removed. You could ask the photographer to do that or add more of them, you know. So retouching is basically a program where you fix the pictures. Make sure that they don't fix them like black and white with blue eyes. That's not the retouching I'm talking about. I'm still here. I will be here the whole day, so I can ask some questions later on. Cool. Thank you.